What's up, y'all? Back at it again with some Dark and Darker. Today we're going to be ranking the classes on where I believe they stand on the tier list. It's been over a year since we've been back, but we have currently played 80-something hours this play... Not playtest. It's the real game now. But this is from a viewpoint of somebody who played a bunch of the playtests. So the game is drastically different now. They've added inherent magic resistance to a lot of the gear. They've added some magic resistance to specific classes such as the Barbarian. And they changed some of the perks around. Added a couple weapons, maybe. There's things I haven't noticed, to be honest. But we're going to get right into it. And some of the things that I think should be changed. And some of the things that, you know, maybe a little off meta. But just because something is off meta doesn't mean that it doesn't work. So, let's get into it. Gonna get this out the way. At a bare minimum. At a bare minimum, it's an S. Is it worth nerfing? I don't know. I'm a bit biased, to be honest. Let me change this, actually. Just delete this. I don't think anything needs to be nerfed. Can I create another one? Make this pink. Okay. Alright, so Warlock's S tier. That's just, it's really broken right now. The build people are complaining about is you're wearing cloth gear, and there's two curses. There's a curse that takes 36 damage from you automatically, and there's a curse that takes 20 damage from you. One of them increases your vigor and your strength, which is, unless you're a melee build, really doesn't do anything. Strength's not gonna do anything for you, but you lose about a third of your life with that one curse. And then the second curse does 10 damage initially, and then it takes, I think, 10 away over 8 seconds. So it's 20 damage plus 36. So in two curses, you can take over half someone's HP. It's really broken, honestly, and you're able to heal from all the curses that you do. What makes it very powerful, whether you're in solo, duos, and trios, is you're going to fight a lot of times with enemies in the room. So the Warlock can just dot up a bunch of the enemies, so he's getting full HP constantly. He's just getting life gain while he fights you. I don't know what they need to do to change it. They've already nerfed it, I think 25% a bunch of the abilities, but it's still really strong. And on top of that, the secondary builds, the Death Knight build that I call, you can run plate armor, and you have access to a halberd and a longsword and a bardiche. You can play kind of like a barbarian. It's kind of with plate armor. It's cool. And that build's not super overpowered. I ran it with 2 fighters and then me as the plate DK Warlock in 3s, and that's really fun as a triple melee comp. They don't want to push you. They don't know you're a Warlock usually until mid-fight. So I think that shouldn't get nerfed, but the current playstyle needs to get tuned a little bit. Maybe the abilities need to get reworked. It's just too strong. And then in the trios, I'm seeing like 2 or 3 Warlocks together in a team, and they all summon Hydras. And if you're in a small enough room, you're blocking off the choke points and dropping the Hydras, and it shuts down Thief, obviously, and it shuts down the Wizard because those Hydras can see through invisibility. It's pretty good. So Warlock is just really strong right now. Barbarian. I'm gonna say it's A. It's really good. You know, you have a lot of magic resist. You can break through doors, and that same perk I think they've added with a different one to make it so you have impact. So if you hit someone with a war maul or with like another strong weapon, they can block one attack, and then their shield kind of drops, and then the barbarians can just kind of swing away with, the skill ceiling isn't that high. You pop your shouts, you run in there, and you just swing, and you're gonna hit the guy. There isn't much counterplay to it right now because the Wizard is in a really bad spot. He has slow and a couple other abilities to slow. Ranger has a trap, I guess, but it's not really used much in these team fights. Yeah, the Barbarian's just in a good spot. I wouldn't say it's S tier because it's not like overpowered, but it's a good pick all around, whether you're solo or with a team. Cleric. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this. There is like a 2-shot build, a 2-shot judgment build with the quarterstaff or like with that mace. You're like a Ret Paladin in World of Warcraft. You hit really hard. You have good utility. It's kind of boring for me, to be honest. I know it's similar to the Warlock because you have the ability to have a shield and a weapon. And you can also cast spells. But it's invaluable in a team fight. It's never going anywhere with a team fight. So in a team, in a trio, it's at least an A. I wouldn't drop it below an A. But because you're so versatile and you can run the two-hand melee build, it's also, you know, pretty good too. So I'm gonna put Cleric at A right now, especially in this meta, fighting all the Warlocks. Like, they have damage resistance to all magic except for divine magic, which obviously the Cleric is really good for. Druid, brother, sisters, gentlemen, ladies, children, aunts and uncles. The Druid is so powerful right now. Different than the Warlock, the Druid takes legitimate skill to play. You have to be switching through the forms. You have to be managing your spells correctly, your spacing. But Druid is really good right now. For example, the Warlock has Phantasmal, which makes you immune to physical damage. And then the Druid has some other spectral form, which I think you're immune to all damage. Both the classes that have invulnerabilities, I think, are top tier. Because it's a really good utility to have. It gives you a moment to press that button, or Warlocks get to press the button, but Druids get hit, and then they have a couple seconds to really think. To where if you're playing like Wizard, you can go invisible, and that's your only couple seconds to really think. If something goes bad or somebody gets the jump on you, you can't just press a button and, like, you know, kind of gather your bearings. So Druid is really powerful right now. There isn't much counterplay to Druid unless you're a Wizard. I know the Druids can turn into a rat, and then they can get one-shotted by Fireball if it hits you. And then Warlocks, if they curse them, the Druids cannot go rat form, because then they immediately die, because they only have about 6 HP in rat form, and the dot will tick one time and kill the Druid. So yeah, but Druids have a lot of options. I've seen a one-shot bear where they stack all strength, and then I think they pop like their ability, the frenzy, and then they right-click and they just kill you on bear. So that's pretty good. It's kind of hard to pull off, but it's nice. You have options. You can go Kitty to attack the Warlocks that are squishy. You can attack the Wizards that are squishy. You have good DPS options. You're still a caster, so you have the Treant. The Treant is an amazing ability right now, regardless of where you're at. It definitely raises the skill floor. Just running Treant is always a good pick. I think with any Druid build that you're gonna run, Treant is just amazing. So yeah, maybe not a maybe I don't know. Maybe does it need a nerf? Does a Druid need a nerf? I don't know. I don't want to be negative and say it needs a nerf. I just say if you're super sweaty, you could be S tier on Druid. It's definitely there. Skill dependent. What else? The Bard. Bard. Bard's in a good spot right now too. Like there's a lot of balance in the game. You know, Bard is definitely hard to play because you have to be able to switch through all your instruments mid-fight while people are pressing up on you. You have to like do like a Dance Revolution or a Guitar Hero kind of rhythm game to get your spells up. I'm sure with practice it becomes muscle memory. But they have decent access to weapons with the rapier. Do they have a bow? Can they shoot with a bow? I don't remember, to be honest. I think they can. But they have a lot of utility. Actually, no. This is a B tier. I'm making this B tier. For the sole reason that bards are loud. There's been so many times in this last like 90 hours that I've been playing to where I hear a bard making noise, and I know he's there. He's given away the position of his entire team just because he's doing the buffs. And thirdly, we'll encounter somebody behind a door, and they'll close the door and be right up on the door, and I'm not entirely sure what it is. But then you hear the bard making music, and you know that's just the bard prepping his buffs. So I can blow up the door. You can start rushing them and when they're not ready. So Bard needs a lot of prep time to kind of be ready. But in ideal conditions, the Bard is powerful on its own and really buffs the team. Just as much as a Cleric, I'd say. but they're loud, so that's why they get B tier. Let's do Wizard. Yep, not a surprise. I have played Warlock more this season than I have Wizard, but I am a Wizard main. And coming back to the game, Wizards are just gutted. I saw it change when they first added Chain Lightning, like over a year ago, in I think the 4th playtest, to where you needed knowledge gear. You started to need gear to be able to have access to your full spell list. And, you know, they've added the ability to sit down normally without needing meditation, so you can get your spells back without a campfire, which is cool. But the direction they've turned Wizard into is they've nerfed a lot of the damage that they can do, because they've added magic resistance to almost all the gear, to a lot of the gear, especially the melee classes. That inherently has nerfed Wizard, because Wizard is only magic damage for the most part. And now they've made it so you have to play like a kind of a niche build, you know, that it's definitely not meta. There is no Wizard build right now that's meta per se. I'm doing like a Rondell Dagger stabby build with Ignite right now, which is totally not meta. You know, I'm having a lot of fun with it. I'm getting kills, but I'm sure if I were to fight people like equally skilled or people that are in, you know, demigod, they'd probably be clowning on me, you know. And I'm not sure if Wizard has a place in trios, and because you could just replace me with a bard, or replace me with a cleric, or maybe replace me with a warlock. I'm not entirely sure. The haste and ignite and invis combos are definitely nice for your team, but they've lowered the maximum amount of spells that you can do. You used to be able to have 5 invises, now you only have 4. You used to have 6 haste, now you only have 4. And the game requires you to become very gear dependent in order to increase your knowledge or increase your memory capacity, so that you have the original 6 and 5 spell casts. So there's that. Wizard's not in a good spot right now. You don't see him really, and yeah, that's that. On that note, though, because you don't see him, we kind of counter the Warlock meta right now, and we're able to one-shot Druids in rat form, and a lot of newer players that are playing Druid don't know that Wizards can do that. So it is nice to get some easy, cheesy, breezy one-shots on these Druids. Fighter. It's definitely not A tier, I don't think. Barb's in a better spot. I'm going to assume the fighter has a bow. We're going to assume the fighter's running a bow, whether the windlass crossbow, longbow, and then his other kit is like a melee build, whether he has like a sword shield, whether he has a Zweihander, I don't know. This, I'd say low B tier. It's almost C tier. I've seen a build with without plate armor, and they're kind of running a speed build with like cloth and leather, and they have dual wielding weapons, and then they have a windlass crossbow. They're kind of like rogues. They do a little bit more damage, a little bit tankier. They have a sprint button, right? But they have to run from barbarians, and they have to run from full plate fighters. It's because you can't block and you can't effectively dodge. So they're a bit of a one trick, you know. In a team fight, you know, it's definitely good to have a fighter. Fighters are great targets to be buffed by clerics, by bards, by the wizards. But fighter is not really in a good spot right now. I'd say the bottom of B tier. Yeah, I think this is active so far. Rogue. Now, this depends on who you ask. Rogue's never really been in a bad spot, from what I've seen. You have to be able to dodge everything, obviously. You can pickpocket people, which is unrelated to PvP, but it is hilarious. And I'm gonna drop a link in the description to the guys that are pickpocketing people right now. These two little skeletons in the dark that are stealing from you, and it is hilarious. Hilarious. Yeah, rogues aren't doing terrible. If we're talking strictly PvP, I'd say B. I'd say B. They're in a better spot than fighter. But for PvE, they can solo the bosses pretty easily. Now, people in the comments are going to say every class can solo the bosses, the Cyclops and the Cave Troll, and I'm saying you're right. But they have very quick move speed, so with the Cave Troll, they don't even have to jump. They can just hit and back up and completely dodge most of the attacks. And with the Cyclops, the same thing. They don't have to jump with a lot of the abilities. They just circle him, and they're not going to get blinded either. So PvE, like they're definitely... So can the Bard. The Bard's in a good spot too. I'd say I'd keep him at a B tier right now. And the Ranger. I'm almost tempted to put Fighter in C, to be honest, because Rogue is definitely better than the Fighter, I think. Ranger, I think, got some buffs recently with the Windless Crossbow and something else. But Ranger isn't like in an amazing spot either. I'd put it above the Fighter. Yeah. I'm not sure whether to put this here or here, to be honest. I don't know too much about the Ranger. I just know that in the playtest it was S tier because you could do your little triple shot and one shot anybody in the game, and they've since fixed that. And the maps are different. There used to be a very large circular map with a staircase at the top with an entrance to a golden room, and the Rangers would stay. I call them snipers. The Rangers would stay up there and just two-piece anybody that came out of the doors. But the maps are different now, and it's a lot harder to do that. On the maps where you can do that, get to a high point, it's usually guarded by like a harpy on the ice map, or on the Goblin Caves, with the exception of the Goblin Mine, there isn't really a place on that map where you can get a high point and kind of get a vantage point. So if the maps were a little bit different, I'd rate it higher, but it's not quite there. You have to get some elevation to get some clean headshots, and it's not as good as it used to be. But yeah, I think that's roughly where it's at. I'm gonna put this C tier actually, like C plus tier. It's not like terrible, but Fighter is could be in a better spot right now. Barbarian has a lot more utility. I think this is my final tier list right here. Warlock needs to get reworked, a little bit of a nerfs. Druid is fine where it's at. It's just if you have it has really high skill ceiling, so you can be really good at this if you know how to play. Barb is really good. Cleric is really good. Bard is really good too. I'm almost tempted to give Bard an A, but we're gonna make it B plus. We're gonna put B plus. Rogue and Ranger are in decent spots. Fighter is not doing good, to be honest. Very gear dependent. Wizard, everybody knows Wizard's in a bad spot. So yeah, that's the tier list I'm thinking right now as of July 3rd, 2024. I think this is season 3. I think this is the first season since Steam. It's been back on Steam. So yeah. So let me know in the comments what you think. If you hate me, if you love me, if you like the content, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. And yeah, so I'm gonna do another one probably next season once they release their arena, because the arena is really gonna get a lot more XP. The arena is gonna really showcase like what these classes can do in conjunction with each other. We're gonna start to see a lot of builds form. The maps are gonna be very dependent because hopefully there's no enemies. There's no way to get third-partied. Are they going to copy Dungeonborn? Is it going to be a 3v3? Is it going to be a free-for-all? Who knows? But this is what I think as of right now. So, yeah. Thanks for watching, and until next time, guys. Peace.